Good evening,
Just a minute.
everyone.
Good
Priscilla,
evening.
go ahead.
Okay, can I go on?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of 2015. This is the first webinar of Braille this year's webinar series. So, first of all, guys, please mute your microphone because we're gonna talk later, okay, in the chat. And another thing, you can make some comment, okay? Yes, you can mute your microphone. Okay? So stay tuned, August. We are going to have another fantastic presentation. Okay? So, well, it is a huge pleasure to be here with Andreia Fernandes. She gave us a great webinars, not webinar, a keynote in iTafel. So, Andreia, please be our guest. All right, Andreia, are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Can I go?
So, first of all, I'm gonna present to you, okay? So Andrea Fernandes has been an English teacher for 25 years. She has been teaching at the public notarial school for 16 years. She has a master's degree in education with a focus on public notarial school. She is also a training coordinator at the Learning Factory. So Andrea, go on. So now it's your time.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm very happy to be here to take a part in this webinar. And I do hope we have lots and lots of webinars in the future. All right? Can you hear me? Hello? Priscilla, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. You can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. So I'm going on. So the title of this webinar is Teaching English at Public Nocturnal Schools in Brazil. And it's really nice to be talking about this because this is a topic that people in general, teachers in general, don't talk so much when it comes to webinars or seminars or conference and things like that. So the first thing that comes to my mind when we talk about webinars and we talk about public nocturnal schools is the fact that we have to be aware of what we are doing. Sorry, guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can. We can hear you. You can
we
go
can
on.
hear you very well. We just muted our microphone, so you can, just can go on.
So I can go on. All right, thank
Yes,
you.
please.
Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So the key word here is awareness. Teachers' awareness to be able to observe the process of learning. And when it comes to students, for us to be able to recognize when learning really happens. And then be able to adjust the response to
Now we can't hear you, Andrea. Can you repeat again, please?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. You can continue, Andrea.
Okay, okay, going back,
Okay?
going back.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So the teacher, okay? So the school where I work is called Colégio. It's located in Bangu, which is a low-income area. And I'm going to talk about the student's profile. I started teaching 16 years ago at a public school. The profile was very different. The students were older. Generally, they work during the day, and during the evening, they went to school. Nowadays, it's really different. The students are about 17 to 21. They come from very low income areas and very violent backgrounds. Sometimes they have to close the school because of violence. I remember that when I was at IATEFL, one day before traveling, I was going to teach, but the school was closed due to violence in the area. They killed somebody in an area near the school, and then they had to close it. In general, students have very little contact with the English language at school, lack of confidence in Portuguese, and that very old sentence, I don't know Portuguese, how am I going to learn English, or why am I going to learn English? Generally, during the day, work, some of them do not work, and the question is, why do you work, why do you study in the evening? And some of them say that they're there because they didn't behave well during the day at school, so as a kind of punishment, they're going to study in the evening. Some students are in the evening because of pregnancy and early parenthood. We teachers at public nocturnal schools, we face lots of challenges. I think the first one is demotivate the students. They don't have very specific aim or objective for their futures. When you ask them what they're going to do after they finish school, most of them say that they want to work, but not at a specific place. They only want to work to get some money, and that's it. Some of them say that they are going to get married, but rarely there are students saying that they plan on going to the university, for instance. And they have a really low self-esteem. They don't believe they're able to learn a foreign language or any kind of language. The consequence that we have high dropout rates. Lots of students, they enter the first year and they abandon school in the middle of the year, especially October, November, when they have to work because of Christmas, and then they leave school and most of them don't return. And they have very poor classroom performance ratings. They take a test, and if they get a 0 or very low grades, they simply don't care about it. And you talk to them and you ask them what happened, and they don't know how to answer the question, or if they know, it means something that it really doesn't matter. And at school, the schools in general have very poor quality infrastructure, lack of maintenance. If you want to use the internet, it's really difficult, okay, for us to count on school infrastructure. The focus, according to the law of the high school, is Enem and vestibular. But then a question, okay, we're going to focus on Enem, but do students know why they are going to get Enem? How many students try Enem? How many students pass? It's a globalized world, so they say, we have to learn English because it's a globalized world. Because of job market, universal academic purpose. So high school in general, this is the focus according to the law, according to PCNs, Parâmetros Curriculares Nacionais. And the students' views of at school is, English is very beautiful, but it's not for me. So they know exactly that English was not made for them. It's beautiful. They like to listen to songs. However, they say it's not for them. They also say it's good, but we have very little time to learn. It's very fast. and that we want to learn many things. We only learn English at a language course. Unfortunately, in Brazil, we have this, that for you to be able to learn a foreign language, you do have to go to an English course. If not, you're not going to learn it, which means that the English that we teach at schools is not good, and because of that, students do not learn. But then I always ask this question: the same teacher that is there at a public nocturnal school is a teacher who teaches an English course at the university. I'm giving my example. So why can things work at an English course? Why do things work at maybe a good private school, and things don't work at a public school? And they also say it's superficial and does not help us a lot. We should have more classes. This is something that they say frequently. Would you like to learn how to speak English? So I try to do drilling and things like that. They do like it. But it's funny because they talk during all the class. When it comes to repeating things in English, just a few students say that. They don't like their voices to be heard. And they say, I'd like to study the language course. Which one, teacher, do you recommend? And then when they generally ask a question, how much does it cost? Because when it comes to the price of the course, they're going to feel totally demotivated because they're going to say that they do not have money to pay for that. And then learning English becomes a dream. But why does it have to be only a dream? I think it's a big challenge for us teachers. And then, according to PCN, the focus of high school should be on reading. And we know that reading is really challenging when it comes to Portuguese and English. Most of the students, they do not read even in Portuguese very well. When I say reading, it does not mean just recognizing words, but I say reading in terms of being able to interpret a text, for instance. So generally, when it comes to a text, and if you say, read the text, answer the questions, they generally say, oh no, another text. I don't want to answer questions. So lack of motivation. They say, I can't understand anything. I can't recognize words. And then we have this level of anxiety because they say, well, if I'm not able to recognize any word, I won't be able to do the exercise. Most of the time, it's lack of prior knowledge related to reading. Some of them say that they don't know any words, and we know that reading is not just recognizing words. But then little by little, I try to show students that they know lots of words, they know lots of things. What they have to do is reduce the level of anxiety and be guided to see that they are able to learn, they are able to recognize lots of words, and they are able to read and interpret. So for that, I try to choose a text that can be in a course book on the internet, those flyers that are distributed, for example, on the streets, related to, for instance, apartment buildings and things like that. And I selected the words in English and I try to work with them. I always check if there are words that need to be pre-taught. And I always think of the strategies I'm going to use when I'm going to learn them, because my aim is, I get very happy when I look at students' eyes and they look at me and and I can see that they are very happy because they are able to recognize a whole sentence in English. And generally they say, teacher, is this sentence saying this, this, and this? And I say, yes, it's exactly that. And I get really happy, and they get really happy because they say, I learned that. I could recognize that. So for reading, the first thing that I try to do is to activate their schemata. And for that, I ask questions in Portuguese, little by little. Why? Because I need to arouse their interest. So to set this, I'm going to use Portuguese. The second step is to exploit the title. And then to exploit the title, I list lots and lots of things from students. I don't say the meaning of the words, I list it from them. I make them get to the meaning of the words little by little. I compare things to Portuguese. I use lots of Portuguese to compare things. It's not to translate the words, but to guide students for them to be able to recognize, for them to be able to think. So I think the word here is how to guide students and make them think. And then, if it's necessary, I pre-teach vocabulary. During the reading itself, I use lots of questions because generally in ENEM, the questions are in English and the answers are in Portuguese. So I do the same. I ask the questions in English and the answers are given in I do not translate the questions. I guide students for them to be able to recognize the questions and to see what it means. If the vocabulary is too difficult for them, one or few words, I explain the words, and then sometimes for this vocabulary, I use association or I use translation. Of course, I always start with something that they know, which means that the transparent words, cognate words, and this skimming and scanning things. And then when it comes to intensive reading, I ask the questions, and then at the end, I ask some questions in order to summarize the principal ideas of the text. After that, I lead a class discussion. This class discussion is in Portuguese, related to the text, to the topic of the text. For instance, one I dealt with the students was about health, and then all the questions, it was a quiz, and the questions were in English. It means how many glasses of water do you drink a day, how much exercise, and things like that. I asked them if they drink, if they smoke, and things like that. But the discussion was in Portuguese, and generally what I can see is that the discussions are really fruitful. The students do like doing that. So the starting point is a text in English, but the debate is going to be in Portuguese. When it comes to interpreting the text and doing exercise, I generally hand out a worksheet for them to be able to answer questions related to the text. And then I also try to have some personalization. For instance, if it is about a film, what's your favorite kind of film? And then the question can be, for instance, it's comedy. And then what's the name of the film that you like, a film that you like? And then the discussion about the film is going to be in Portuguese. We do not have much time to deal with a whole text, pre-reading, reading, and post-reading in just one class. So generally, we do pre-reading and reading, and we start post-reading in a class, and then the other week, we go on with this post-reading. And for post-reading, what I like doing is to have some vocabulary review. So what I do is sometimes I write the meaning of the word, and they have to come up with the word. Or I give them the word and then they have to explain what it means. They can explain that in Portuguese. Sometimes we have a role play depending on the genre of the text. And this role play is very simple. A few questions that some students ask and other students answer. Questions based on the text, but I help them teach them how to pronounce the questions and possible answers. And some students are volunteer. And it's interesting because not all students want to do that. In the beginning, it's a bit difficult. But they go on. Some students are volunteers. And I start with very few students, but then little by little, okay, this number is a bit better than the others. And then sometimes we have almost half of the class. They really want to participate. If there is a story, for instance, about, for instance, we were talking about the story of a girl who traveled and then visited lots of places, and then I asked a student to retell the story, and they used a few chunks in English, but most of the things were in Portuguese. So the most important thing is we have to keep it simple. And it doesn't mean that because it's simple, it's not going to be important. It's going to be really important. But because it's simple, students generally, they like it. They like it because they feel they have this sense of achievement. they believe that they are really able to take a text in English, read it, understand it, and it's really good for their self-esteem. So keep it simple for a student to be proud of themselves, and it's so interesting, it's so important for them to be proud of themselves. Why proud of themselves? For being able to read and understand a text in a foreign language. So my message here is, we are English teachers, and I think that we do not have to teach just when it comes to advanced students. We also have to think about those students who have very little chance of going to an English course, for instance, and show them that there is a whole different world ahead of them. Show them that they are really able to learn a foreign language, and a foreign language may change their future. Once I remember that I had a student, and he used it to work on the beach. He used it to sell soft drinks, and he said that English was really important because the words and the sentences that he learned, for example, numbers and how much it costs and things like that, that he used to talk to gringos, that he said, teacher, I talk to gringos and I can sell lots of beer and Coke and soft drinks in general. And it really helped him. So it was really, really interesting because at least he remembered the words and the chunks and the questions that he learned during the class. So what I try to do is, I try to look at my students and look at their eyes and understand why they are there and make them forget about this. If I don't know Portuguese, how am I going to learn English? They do know Portuguese. They do know lots and lots of words in English because we are in Brazil and we are exposed to English all the time. What we have to do is be aware of what is happening. And then this awareness is going to guide us to critical thinking, which is a key word here. So critical thinking is a key chunk for me when it comes to teaching, especially when I teach those students. I avoid asking lots of yes or no questions. I try to ask more WH questions, even in Portuguese. But why do you think it happens? When they say, but I don't speak Portuguese, but I don't know how to speak Portuguese, and I ask them, who told you that don't know how to speak Portuguese? Where have you heard that? Do you agree with that? Give me examples. Tell me why. And they say, teacher, you do like asking questions? Yes, I love asking questions. And then I ask lots and lots of questions for me to get the answers. And based on their answers, I learn lots and lots of things about the students. And based on the piece of information that I receive, I try to construct my classes. I try to adapt texts. I try to show them that they're able, and things are going to change, but things can only change if they really want to and if we teachers really want to. I think I'm ready for your questions.
That was very nice sharing of your experience, Andrea. Thank you. Could you try to share your image with us again, just because we can't see you again? I don't know what happened.
Okay, let me try this.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Sure, Viviane. You can ask
Okay.
it.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Okay, whoever wants to ask a question, you can mute your microphone and then you can ask. Turn your mic. Yes, please.
Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, Andrea. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Right now, I work as an editor, and I've just finished editing a series that is going to participate. It is already participating in the government bid for PNLD. So your experience is very important to us who work with this kind of material. So my question, my first question, I have some here actually, I was taking notes. It's about books. Did you use any books with your students? Because the government, the federal government, distributes books for high school students. So did you use any materials, I mean, any books in your classes with the students?
Hello, Viviane, is it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay, Viviane. Yes, students receive this PNLD book. Rarely do they take the books to school. They still have, and they have to work during the day. They don't like taking the books. So what I try to do is I select a few of the texts that we have, lots of books, and I select texts from different books. I do not use just one book with them. Since I receive lots of books, I select a few texts and I adapt because sometimes the texts are too long for the students, especially in the evening. So I try to make things, I'm going to say easier, but it doesn't mean that it's not really important. Can you understand what I
No, I
mean?
totally understand. When you brought the issue of critical thinking, I totally agree with you. The post reading tests sometimes are more important than the reading tests themselves. I mean, more important for the students. You know, when it comes to their citizenship, when it comes to developing their critical thinking. You know, sometimes one complaint that students have, that teachers have, is that sometimes they don't feel like they are teaching English, they're teaching something else. But in the context that you are in, you know, this something else, let's say in quotation marks, is much more important than the language itself.
Yeah,
I
because
totally agree with you.
when students believe what you're saying, when you have very good relationship with the students, it means that it's easier for you to teach. It's not something that we do, for example, in a day, on a day, just one day. It means
You
that it
have to
takes
build trust and confidence, right?
perfect. So the moment you have that, you can do almost anything, even a longer text. The only problem that I see in the books in general is that maybe the students during the day, they can get that in the evening generally. I don't know if they are really tired, if the time is too fast, so I don't have time to cover everything in terms of grammar, for instance. But since the name does not really focus on grammar, on reading, but reading that leads to reflection, that leads to critical thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We have another question, but from Simone. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Hello, Stephanie.
Yes,
Yes.
Simone, you can ask her a question if you want. Hello,
Hi,
Simone.
Stephanie.
She writes here. What kind of material do you use?
Yeah. Hello, Simone. So sometimes I use, as I said before, parts of the course book. I use text that adapt when I take a look at the internet, and I also use lots and lots of flyers and sometimes text from magazines. But all of them I have to adapt. I choose a paragraph sometimes or two paragraphs, and then I go on and I work. But generally, I do something like this: magazines and text from the internet and things that the students are interested. The moment I know the students, I try to see what they are interested in, and then I bring these things to the class. Then it's easier for them to read the text.
That's
Simone,
okay? Okay, Luciana Amaral, you can write your question, please, and we read it for you. Simone Rodriguez is there. She has another question. Just hold
okay.
on. Viviane, yes, you can. You can make a question. Go on.
Okay, just you said that I don't remember if you mentioned that. How many hours do you teach each group per week?
Yeah, generally 2 classes of 50 minutes a week.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder you said time is tight.
Sorry?
50 minutes.
And it's regular high school, right? It's not Asia. It's not the special classes for adults.
No. It's regular high school.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, 2 classes a
Okay.
week, 50 minutes, 50 minutes each. But we
Mm-hmm.
know that sometimes reduce, especially for instance, if you work Friday, the last class Friday, generally students don't go to school. They miss school a lot.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Andrea, we have a question from Luciana Amaral.
Okay,
She is
Luciana.
congrats to you on the talk, and she would like to know about the evaluation. How do you evaluate your students, and what it is that really counts?
Okay, thank you very much. I do like this question because I do like assessment when it comes to those students. What I have observed is that when they have to do a test, an exam, generally they don't give much importance to that. What they want to do is they do the test really fast because they want to go home. So tests are not really meaningful for them. What is more meaningful when I ask them, for example, a text based on a topic that we have already dealt with, and I ask them to do that in pairs. And they always ask me, can I consult the notebook? Of course you can. Because, and they think that just because you're going to consult the notebook, it's going to be pretty easy. But what I observe is that when they have to work in pairs, have to answer questions about a text, of course, the notebook helps to a certain extent, just in terms of vocabulary, but they don't see that they have to really interpret the text. So what I will observe is that students, they work in groups, they try to answer the question. It's much more meaningful. And they stay in the classroom for a long time trying to answer that and trying to do this exercise. So I try to evaluate the students this way, according to their participation in class, and when I ask them to work in the classroom, because I think it's much more fruitful than ask them just to do a test, because I don't know about your experience with tests in general, but generally they try to answer it as fast as they can and then go home.
Okay. We have another question.
From
Now,
Shirley first, please. Shirley wants to know how many students you have in class.
Well, generally the list is about 40, 45 students, 50, but in class generally I have 20, 25, maximum 30 students.
Thank you. And the next one would be Simone's. She wants to know how you deal with heterogeneous, I don't know how to pronounce that, groups. Yeah, she means different levels in the same group.
Yes, what I try to do is some students, let's see, well, they really know lots of things, and some students, they really need help. What I try to do is to make the students help each other, and then there is a lot of bigots here. So I have lots and lots of pair work in class, and I ask them to do exercise. They always ask me, but am I going to get a point? I say, yes, you can get a point, you can get 2 points, you can get 3 points, because points here are not really important for me. Okay, since it's something really important and students really want the points, okay, I'm going to say 3 points, and then they try to do that seriously. But my objective is to see students helping each other, but I don't tell them, you know a lot of English, you don't know English, you're going to help him or her. It's not that. I just ask them to work in pairs, you're going to do that, but what is behind that they are helping each other. So instead of just the teacher, me, Andrea, teaching them, I make them teach each other, help them teach each other.
we have another question.
Okay.
Yes or no? From YouTube, we have another question. Luciana Amaral, is age a problem for them?
Well, I think in the past it was because in the same class we had students who were 17 and 55 and 60. Nowadays we are between 16 and 21, so I think it's not really a problem. I don't see this as a problem. The only thing is that what I see as a problem is the fact that some students they start studying in the evening as a kind of punishment, and then I think it's really negative. And the students say, ah, they're studying here. He's studying here now with us because he did not behave well during the day. So I don't like when I hear this kind of thing because it doesn't mean because it's a nocturnal school that it's going to be because of a student who doesn't behave well.
Yeah, Luciana means for the difference in age in terms of pair work and group work, if that's an issue when you have a 16-year-old next to a 21-year-old, for example.
No, I haven't seen it as a problem. No, I have never had this kind of problem. But if I feel that they won't interact well because we have a 17 with a 21, I let them, I choose different pairs for them. Yes,
Viviane,
I think something interesting is that I try to ask them working pairs according to my choice. I guide them. Otherwise, they just stay together with a friend that does not know very well. So I say that I'm choosing that randomly, but it's not really random. There is a reason for me to choose the pairs.
okay. Viviane wants to make another question.
Okay.
Okay, Andrea, I believe you're not the only English teacher working at this school, right? I think there are other teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you see your colleagues' work? I mean, the level of motivation, the way they work with the students. How do you see that?
Generally, motivation for teachers, especially English teachers, is almost zero because they say, I don't know what I'm doing here. They don't hear me. I'm an English teacher, and because it's English, and because students generally don't flunk because of English, they don't value English. So I always try to talk to them and see and tell them that what we are doing in class is really important.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that I when I say that what I'm doing here is important and then I'm very happy in my class, everything works out. It's not that. It's only
Mm-hmm.
the approach that I have in relation to what I teach. But generally have this some friends
Mm-hmm.
say this way, some colleagues they don't see this in a very positive way. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
We have another question from Shirley. Natalia, do you have the question from Shirley?
Yes, she's asking if you're following anything like CEDUC's curriculum minimum.
Yes, I take a look at curriculum minimum, and for example, when it comes to the first year, it's based on, for instance, they have to prepare a kind of film review or things like that. So I also try to choose some of the topics that are suggested in curriculum minimum.
We also have
But
a
I
question.
adapt.
Virginia
Um,
Borges, Andrea, she wants to know what kind of activity you like to do during the first classes to get to know them better.
so the first thing is I let them ask me questions. So first of them, any question that they want to ask me, and of course I'm going to answer according to what is permitted in class. But first of all, so I let them, I ask them questions. Sorry, I let them ask me questions, and then little by little I talk to them, and it's something like this. I ask the student's name, where they studied previously, what do they want to do in the future, everything in Portuguese. Because generally the first class, there aren't many students in the classroom. But I think it's really fruitful, and it was very nice for me to establish this connection with the students because they are not afraid of asking me questions, and I learned lots of things about their background experience when it comes to English and when it comes to life in general. I ask them if they work, where they work, and if they have kids. But I don't ask this, how many kids do you have? Then it's talking about life. Oh, you have a child. How many children do you have? And then we find out lots and lots of pieces of information. Lots of young boys and girls, 17, who have 2 kids and a kid. I myself, I don't have kids, and they find it really strange. How come you don't have kids? Why not, teacher? Because most of them have kids. And then it's interesting to see this difference. And sometimes they say, but you are 45. My grandmother is 45, or my mother is 45. The same age. Imagine I'm a grandmother.
Simone has another question here, Andrea. How do you convince them to present something in class?
Simona, do you mean to present something orally?
I believe so. Simone, we can see your video. It's a shame we cannot hear you.
Yeah, well,
shame.
yeah, because when it's something written, it's easier. When it is an oral activity, and then, of course, it cannot be the first classes. Right? It takes me time after 3 months, 4 months, and then little by little, I ask them. You mean in English? The questions in English, Simone?
And
Portuguese,
in Portuguese.
based on the text. Yeah, I think it's based on the text selection. Students are really interested in the topic. Naturally, they start making about it, and then it's easier for me to ask them to talk about that and to present something related to the text. So I think it's based on the text selection, the topic that they're going to talk about. For example, there was a text about beauty that I selected, and it was very nice to see the girls talking about Viviane Araújo and other girls and their beauty model, and some of them saying that, no, Viviane Araújo, no, there is another girl that I can't remember the names, but the girls were really involved in that, and then the boys started giving their opinions about beauty as well. And it was really fruitful. And there was a moment when I was not speaking, they were saying lots of things, and then I got the idea and I taught them some chunks in English. And generally, when they learn about these chunks, they say, ah, teacher, I liked that very much. I'm going to use that on Facebook, or I'm going to use that on WhatsApp when I write things. And I get really happy because you're using the language. And I like teaching them things like Subway, the name of the snack bar, for instance. You know what it means? And they say, the underground. And then when I teach them, they say, I've learned that. I'm going to tell that to all my friends, my family when I arrive home. I get really happy.
Yeah.
I think I have a question that is sort of related to that. Oral tasks in English, because you mentioned you have them ask questions in English at times. And of course, you're focused on reading, but I was wondering if that is that those oral tasks are kind of an impact of the orientações curriculares para o ensino médio, which talk about also developing oral fluency in the students. And actually, my question would be more like, how is your school dealing with it, if it's dealing with it at all? Because it's quite a challenge.
Yeah, we really don't have the think of an oral test because it's really difficult because of time constraints and things like that. Once I worked during the day, and during the day it was easier for me to have the think of the oral test. And in the evening, sometimes teachers are absent, and then we are teaching, and some students are asking you, can you come to my class now? And then it's really confusing, and I wish I could have I wish it were really possible, and I think it's possible. The only thing is that the school has to help me organize things. I think it's a school organization that does today. We are interrupted many times. So for you to have an oral test, for instance, I would need the help of a coordinator, for instance, for me to have some students in class, and then the other students would stay in another classroom with, for instance, the coordinator. But rarely do I have a coordinator there to help me. So
Sorry, I meant oral tasks, not tests.
Oral tasks. I thought it was an oral test. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, oral tasks, then it's easier, and students do like that. But first, I start with repetition. I start with the drilling for them to be able to say the words, and then we rehearse the questions, and they like asking the questions, and then they are able to have this role play. For instance, one asks the questions, the other one answers. There is something that they do like doing is being a reporter, a journalist. They ask 3, 4 questions to another person, and the other person, for instance, is a famous person. They choose who they want to be. For instance, Viviane Araújo. And then they interview Viviane Araújo, asking, how old are you? Where do you live? What's your salary? How much do you get? And they select the question they would like to ask, and I help them when it comes to English.
Okay, we have a question here from Juliana Mota on Facebook. Okay. Questions are coming in from everywhere. Okay. She wants to know how you deal with discipline problems and lack of interest.
I think discipline problems I used to have in the past. Nowadays, it's more difficult. Why? Because since I've established this kind of contact with the students, I tried the group, and then I respect them, and they kind of respect me. Maybe people are going to say this is a dream, okay? But for instance, in the beginning of the year, I had lots of problems of students throwing lots of pieces of paper on the floor. And what I did is I got a garbage can, and then I said, oh my God, sorry, there are lots of pieces of paper on the floor. I'm going to collect that, so can you help me? Nobody helped me. So I took the garbage can, and I started walking, and then I asked them, could you please put this paper ball here inside? And then one student, I student asked me, but you were not a garbage person. And I say, I'm not a garbage person, I'm a teacher. And at the moment, I am a teacher and a garbage person, both of them together. And then I did that. The other class, there were lots of students chewing and the noise. And I said, well, it's really interesting, okay, the noise that you're making. Maybe we would like to have an orchestra in the classroom, but that's not the moment. And then I talked to them. Sometimes they start using the chairs as a rocking chair, and I tell them stories. I remember that once I invented the story of a boy who fell, and he was using the chair as a rocking chair. And then he fell and he became paralyzed. And I said, you see how shocking it was to have that just because he was playing and he fell in the classroom. It was not a real story. It was a fake story, but I told them in a way that they really believed that. They start asking me questions, and I answered the questions. Everything was fake, and they really believe that. Somebody saying we almost called Samu. Sometimes it may happen.
Viviane has a question, and after Viviane, I'm bringing a question from Daniel Sudre.
Okay, Andreia, me again. It's just that I have very few opportunities to talk to teachers who work in public schools. That's why, this moment is so important to me. Right now, we have academics all over the country discussing a curriculum for the country. And we know that for Ensino Médio, one of the main issues that has been discussed is the integration of the subjects.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that? I mean, in your context, do you see that as something that could work or not? I mean, if the government decided tomorrow that we're going to have this integration, from the next year on, do you think that you could continue carrying on with your job? Would the other
Yes.
teachers accept this as a reality? Would this work?
Well, I really don't know about other teachers. I've never talked to them about that, but I think it would be something really good. You know why? Because when I'm teaching, for instance, and we have to talk about London or other countries, they always ask me, uh, where is that? Sometimes they confuse England, the United States, in Australia, and things like that. So it's wonderful when I'm able to show them a map. And when it's summer here and it's winter out there, most of them don't know about it, about the seasons and things like that. So I think geography would help a lot. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes, for example, talking about money and salary and things like that, I think math is really help. And comes to history, for them to understand the origin of the language and the way people behave, the way people have breakfast all over the world, the way people wear clothes, the clothes that they wear. It's related to history, it's related to geography and art and maths. And I think it's really important. I think it's easier for me as an English teacher to have the help of other teachers from other subjects. It would make my life much easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiago has a question, but I had promised Daniel he was next up. So, Daniel, who was your student at Cultura Inglesa Bangu in 2007, by the way,
Yeah.
he says your lessons are mostly based on reading due to the parâmetros curriculares nacionais, he said. But he wants to know if you've ever tried to work on listening and if you think it could work out.
Yeah, now I'm going to tell you that I've never worked with listening in the evening. I think for two main reasons. The first one, it's very difficult to have the material, even the tape recorder. Sometimes we have the tape recorder, the plug does not work very well. And then you're going to say, oh, it's just an excuse. No, it's not really an excuse. I've never tried that. What I may try to do is, and I've thought of that, is maybe use my voice, and try to read a few things and make students and help them with that. But Danielle, I've never tried that. In fact, I've thought about that, but I've never done that. But I think it would help a lot, because the more we expose the students to that, the happier they are going to get, and I think it's going to be easier for them. Even to work songs is a bit difficult. Once I worked with the songs with a group of students, they liked it very much. We had a kind of project. They brought the lyrics, they chose the song that they wanted, and I brought the lyrics and I translated the song with them. I taught them how to sing the song, and then there was a project at school, and the students, they got ready, they dressed, they were all dressed in white because they chose that, and we sang the song. It was really nice. It was a third year group. It was not really a listening activity, but there was some listening involved, since I had to teach them how to sing the song.
Now, Tiago, you can go make your question.
I think Thiago is asking
Yes.
something about vestibular. That's it. Well,
Yes.
some of them, rarely do they talk about vestibular. Some of them, sometimes they talk about Enem, but generally it's not part of their life plans, and it's really sad. But I always try to show them that there is a chance for them, especially with Enem. They come from public schools. Uh, Sorry, Thiago, because they are excited about oral tasks. I don't know the relationship between that and vestibular. Can you explain it better?
Tiago, you could turn on your mic, perhaps. But I think he means when you said they were excited about oral tasks, then it made it think maybe they're not interested in vestibular, and that's why they want to practice spoken language.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I meant. I don't know if you can hear
Oh,
me.
he's here.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. They really like, I think, this thing of oral task. They like it because of sense of achievement. And lots of students, for instance, they have to take SAERG. There is no English involved, but it's history and Portuguese and maths. And most of the time, what I see is that they take the test, they take the answer sheet, and they mark the answer sheet without even looking at the text. And then it's really sad because how are they going to take a name if they do that with SAERG? Okay, so they don't read, they just take the answer sheet and they decorate the answer sheet, most of the students. Generally, we distribute the text at 7 o'clock and they ask us, teacher, how much time do we have for that? What's the minimum? And we say, you have to leave at 8 o'clock. And they say, wow, at 8 o'clock, 1 hour, that's too. And before, it's really hard to keep them until 8 o'clock in class. So imagine if they have to take ENEM and vestibular. Okay, so I think it's not just an English class. It's something that the school has to work with the students for them to know the importance of that. And it's really difficult. So what I see in SAERG is something really demotivating. And I see that they're really demotivated. They don't believe that. They don't worry about that. They don't worry about vestibular. I think it's because of that. It's not part of their plan.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yes, no future plan, lack of plans, and then it's something really, as I said, so the self-esteem is really low. So this is really sad because they represent part of our future. And then we say, what kind of future is a teacher offering my students? What I've been doing? What have I been doing as a teacher to change this? And sometimes I read so many books, I take so many courses, and I look at the students and say, what am I going to do? What can I do? And I feel really sad when I see that I'm professional and I'm trying to do something different, but is it really, does it really matter? Well, and when I see a student, last week a student asked me, teacher, can I be your assistant? And I asked, yes, because in the future, I don't know. I feel that I want to learn English and I want to be a teacher. And I was really sad. And I student, it was a boy and a guy, maybe he's 20, 21, and he asked me to be my assistant as a teacher. Yes, when we mention a name, they say a name, teacher. What's that? Where are you going to take that? And then you say, but this is part of your future. There are lots of people studying hard because they want to pass an name, they want to go to the university. So the universe is still a dream for them. Tiago, do you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. You mentioned the student who works at the beach, and then I was wondering if maybe these oral tasks that you usually have in class, if for them maybe it is more relevant because there are some things that they may use in real life to, as you said about that student, to make money. Do you think there is a connection?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question, Tiago.
You mentioned the student who works on the beach who was excited about role playing and learning about numbers and that he could speak with the gringos, right?
Yes.
And do you think maybe students seem to be a little bit more interested in the oral tasks because that is they see that as something more relevant to them?
Yes, I think it's relevant. I think for them may be relevant and tangible. Another thing that I'd like to mention here is that most of the time at school, they cannot use the cell phones in the classroom, but they end up using the cell phone. So I remember that once was almost 9 o'clock p.m. and I entered the class, was the first year, and the students, most of them were using the cell phone. And I said, well, if I ask them to turn off the cell phone on that task, there was a And I say, well, you have in pairs. I'm not going to answer any question. You cannot ask me any question, but turn on your cell phones. Teacher, you're going to use the cell phone. Yes, we're going to use your cell phones and we're going to answer all the questions. And it was really nice to see how our cell phones trying to get the meaning of the words. And I was observing how engaged they were. In the beginning, the other one said, but I have. And then they formed small groups. And there was a kind of competition among them to see which group was going to finish first. And I was speechless because it was not what I had planned for the class, but it really worked. But it doesn't mean that every class I ask students to use the cell phone. It was just an experience, and it was really fruitful, as I said. And it was not part of my plan, but it really worked.
So everyone, we'd like to congratulations to you again, Andrea, for
Thank you.
giving us a great and amazing keynote. So we learned a lot today with you. I learned a lot with you in April. Was fantastic. That's why we decided to bring you to bring our reality. We need that. We need teachers to engage, to give inspiration for us. And we would like again to thank you for coming. Does anybody else has something to say to Andrea? So go ahead. Oh,
Thank you,
Raquel
Simone.
Oliveira sent you a big hug. She cannot be here today
Oh,
with us. But Raquel Oliveira and many
okay.
other people from the YouTube send you hugs and thank you a lot for for what you gave to us.
Okay, Raquel was my student, very nice person, and thank you very much, part of the group. And then if you have more questions, you can send me and I'll try to answer the questions. But I think that what we have to do is let's share our experience. Otherwise, we're going to be isolated in our classrooms. And people are going to say that just because you work at a public school, your English is not good, and then you are not an important person. You teach at a public school. In the evening, it's not good. So it's not
It's
that.
true.
Okay? It's really challenging. So believe that we are able, and then we are really strong, and we can make a difference in the students' lives and in the lives of other teachers.
So guys, don't be away because we're gonna have another webinar in August. We're gonna stop from July because we are on vacation. We are teacher. We need to rest. And Andrea, enjoy your moment in Labici in Uruguay. Have a great time there. Say hello to everybody there. And we would like to invite you for the next month. In August, we're gonna have a great webinar with Igor Cavalcante. So guys, stay tuned because we're gonna have a lot of things in August. Okay? So thank you so much for coming. Andrea, thank you so much for giving us your time, your experience, and thank you for the invitation that you accepted. Thank you
Okay,
and
thank you
bye-bye.
very much. Bye bye. Good night, guys.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.